Hey everybody, it is Thursday, means it's time for your Thursday Thought. I just spent the last 2 days in Austin, Texas at Keller Williams Mega Camp. Learned a lot of great information, and I want to bring it back and share some of it with you right now. This is my third or fourth time attempt at recording this video. I was trying to add too much in, so I thought I'd just pare it back to one stat that I want to share with you, and that's the affordability index. And then we're going to chat about the market in general after that. And so with the affordability index, it's something that NAR puts out, and if you Google affordability index and scroll down to the NAR website, you can click on it. What they do is they basically look at median home prices, interest rates, qualifying income for the median family, and then the payment as a percentage of the household, the qualifying household income. And so what's really interesting is that as our prices have been going up over the past really 4 or 5 years, pretty drastically. I mean, seeing some double-digit appreciation numbers in the housing market is pretty crazy. To see them year after year has been even crazier. So this one goes back to 2019, looks at it on a monthly basis. So 2019, 20, 21, and then they bust 21 and 22 out by months. And so as a whole, America as a whole, in 2019, 20, 21, payment as a percentage of income was 15.7% in 2019, 14.7% in 2020, in 2021 there was 16.5%, which historically is very low, meaning that the affordability was very high. If people could afford it, only 15% of their income was going to pay their mortgage payment. So that was very interesting, and that trend really continued through 2021. All the way to, we were 17%, 16%, 17%, all the way down to, then in February of 2022, it hit 18%, and then it was 20%, and then 23%, 24%, and in June of 2022, it was 25% of the median household income was going to pay their mortgage payment. Now, obviously, the thing that has shaken up the real estate market has been the Fed raising the federal funding rates, which caused the banks to increase the rate at which they lend money. Eventually, it got down to the banks, and it was affecting the 30-year mortgage note. So ultimately, the fixed 30-year mortgage had a bump in its cost. And when you had high prices and cheaper money, it kept the affordability in the equation, which is why people were able to bid up houses, if you will, with these multiple offer scenarios where the prices were going up, 1%, 2%, 5% above asking price. People were paying that because they actually had the discretionary income to qualify for it, right? They couldn't have made the offers if they couldn't qualify, but they could because money was cheap. And now that money is getting slightly more expensive, and I say slightly more expensive, it's like 25% more expensive. Your mortgage payment would be maybe even a little more, roughly, kind of a rough rule of thumb, and so that adds quite a bit to a household budget, which is why you're seeing the affordability creep up to this mark. Now, it's also very interesting, this breaks it up into areas as well. There's a northeast, Midwest, South, and West. And the interesting thing is, like in the Midwest, people are still only spending about 18.9% of their income on their mortgage payment. Meanwhile, in the West, which Colorado falls into, almost 36% of their income is going to pay their mortgage payment. So if you're in a Phoenix, if you're in a Denver, you're in a Colorado Springs, I'm sure California is the same. There's a larger percentage on average of the average median household income versus the average mortgage payment and the average median price based on a 20% down payment. You're spending more to live out west than you would back in the Midwest, which obviously makes sense. Which is why maybe here in the Pikes Peak region or the Front Range region, we definitely feel that affordability a lot more than say the Ohio's, Indiana's, and Michigans of the country. So how does that kind of affect the market as we're seeing it now? Obviously, affordability was becoming an issue when prices were high, but the money was inexpensive. Now that the prices still are sticking high, seem to be, and the interest rates are higher, and the money is no longer cheap, it makes affordability a real issue. So a lot of buyers simply have to back out of the market, or they have to either drop their price point, or they have to be willing to increase their monthly mortgage payment. I've been kind of telling people that roughly if you were looking for a $500,000 house, $500,000, now you're at a $350,000 mark if you want to keep your payment the same. If you wanted to stay at the $500,000 mark, you would have to increase your payment by about 30%, right? So if you were comfortable paying, let's say $2,000 a month, now you're paying $26,000. If you're comfortable paying $3,000 a month, now you're going to be paying $3,900 a month to stay in that same house. And so again, that's very, very rough numbers. Lots goes into your payment. I'm just kicking them out there for some examples so you can kind of see how it affects it. So ultimately what that's done is that's kind of caused the buyer pool to dry up. And the inventory that we're adding to the market, well, we used to have a couple of buyers per house. Now it's kind of what certainly feels like it's the opposite. We have a couple of listings for the buyers out there. So there's more choice in the market for the buyers, which is good, but the affordability has become an issue. But escalation clauses, appraisal gaps, waiver of inspections, post-occupancy agreements, those things seem to have kind of gone by the wayside over the past 4 to 5 months as we've navigated this new higher interest rate territory in the housing market. So anyway, I just wanted to kind of share that with you, that it's really the two big takeaways were that really homes, historically speaking, over the past few years have actually fallen very well into an affordable category given the historical context of the U.S. housing market. And just now with the interest rates being starting to be elevated, it's definitely hitting an affordability wall, which is why we're seeing inventory climb, days on market extend a little bit, and even some price reductions here in the Colorado Springs market. So that's my information for you. That's a lot I threw at you. If you have any questions about this, you want to know, what it means to you, your situation, your goals, I'm happy to hop on a call and kind of walk through that with you. I would say, to sum it up for sellers, if you are thinking about selling, my recommendation would be to do it sooner rather than later, because I feel that this market is shifting into a buyer's market. But right now it's still solidly seller market territory. We only have about a month and a half supply here in the Pikes Peak region. As a nation, I think we have 3.3 months supply. And about 6 months is where you kind of transition into a buyer's market, where the buyers have more control in the market. So we're still kind of in that seller market territory, but we have, I believe, rounded the crest on the hill, and we are starting probably our descent. I don't know if descent's the right word, but we're starting the trend towards a buyer's market versus a seller's market. If you're a buyer, I would say, if you're going to be in the house for a long period of time, it probably still makes a lot of sense for you to buy. If you know you're only going to be in the house for a few years, then we just got to run the numbers and see if it makes sense for you to purchase or whether it makes sense to rent. I hate renting. I hate paying someone else's mortgage. I hate seeing you put your money and not get anything back in return for it. So I'm always going to advocate for you to be a homeowner. It's the number one tool you can utilize to build wealth for yourself and your family. But I'm also be straight with you, is that if I think you're going to be better off renting, then we'll crunch the numbers and we'll see which way it would pan out. So hope that was helpful and useful for you guys. If I can be of service in any way, let me know. Thanks. Sorry for the long video. Ciao.